Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, thanks.
Good, good to see you. Lovely smile, earrings, and your jacket and everything. Looking beautiful.
Thank you. It's cold. It's cold
Yeah,
here in London, so
yes,
got
yes.
about four other layers on underneath.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was there like, quarter of a century ago. I was there in 99, 2000 during winter. I landed in first time in London. Oh, it was not just cold, it was very dark also most of the time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Very few daylight hours, and even those are very dull and cloudy, right? So, yeah. Okay. So I will quickly introduce you, and we will continue uh, chatting.
Sure.
So, welcome everybody. To this next Insta Live with Rang and our collaborating, grassroots intersectional queer trans collectives here in India. Um, One of them is Nestam Sojesk, which is works largely in one of the southern Indian states with various people in the community, more as a support space. I mean, not exactly a physical space, but yeah, but also they conduct online and offline events and group discussions on various issues and needs of queer trans communities, and a very challenging and important, thing of discussing gender and sexuality with teenagers and adolescents, yeah, in schools. Then Rang, of course, we are a pan-India intersectional queer trans collective. We provide legal referrals, healthcare support, especially mental health. I, Ritash, who are one of the co-founders, I am an ace, neurodivergent queer. I am also fluid. I have invisible disabilities. I'm 51. Okay, so me and two others in Rang are qualified, therapists, counselors, first responders, and also the important thing what we've been doing, especially since June 2023, we started as a collective about 4 years ago, just as the first lockdown was ending. But this whole initiative of documenting first person intersectional queer trans narratives through Insta Live conversations, which are very going to be which have been freewheeling, and very fortunately, like our very dear friend Jacq here, who's a British activist and writer. They are from a minority race. They have disabilities. They are an older person, not too old compared to me, but anyway, and also ace and non-binary, queer. So, very delighted welcoming you, Jacq, and so glad you graciously and quickly, I remember I was bothering you during almost the Christmas holiday season, but you immediately agreed to, have this conversation with us. The, also, the idea here is not just about documenting first person sorry narratives from with uh, friends like Jacq from across the world, but also about what are our contemporary realities, wherever we are, how it impacts us locally and therefore globally, yeah, in terms of our needs, our challenges, the infrastructure which is available or supposedly available but very exclusionary, yeah, even our basic needs sometimes, especially in healthcare, and maybe sometimes even in jobs and housing, are not addressed. Okay. And increasingly, despite our so-called countries being democracies in their making, uh, don't it all seem like that? even our basic freedom of expression is being, threatened, violated. So, on this note, Jacq, I would like to ask you, uh, you know, um, we talked just yesterday, about briefly about how, in your video, yeah, people, we hope to share that link soon, like in the chat or whatever. But Jacq has made a very insightful, a very touching video on how um, their life has been, but it also is sort of a reflection or even a snapshot of how queer trans lives have been for people who are minorities in multiple ways in in the UK. Okay, so a little bit into that, little bit or however much you want to, yeah, about how your life has been, say, from the time you started realizing, accepting, and slowly disclosing about your, queerness. Um,
Okay.
yeah, about how that and at the intersections of race and disability, right?
Mm.
If you,
Yeah, I mean, I came out to myself and others in 1992. I think that was so. Um, before the internet, before it was easy to get or easier to get hold of resources, so it was very, very difficult to find to just find community or to attempt to find community and just connect with other people. The UK scenes at that time, it was it still is very, very white dominated, very gay male dominated, very cis dominated. So as a black queer, um, at that time I was a woman, it felt like being really unwelcome. And it was very hard to get hold of information as well. Since then, it's some things have improved. The internet has made it a bit easier to be in contact with people who are far away. But in other ways, not much has changed at all. The the UK lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans plus communities, there've never really been that much for people with disabilities. And if there is, it's for people with physical disabilities. Um, but when it comes to people with mental health disabilities or long-term mental health conditions and people who are neurodivergent, there's very, very little. There has never been much for us at all. But it's who I am, and I want to honour who I am, especially as I ran away from my very violent, very abusive family about a year before I came out. I think it might have been actually the same year when I was 22. And my whole life until that point had been secrets, secrets, secrets. Don't speak about this, don't mention that, don't talk to the wrong people. And it was all about control. And so when I was able to get away from that, I just thought, I'm done with secrets. I may choose to not talk about some things when I just don't feel like it, or if I don't feel safe, but I'm done. So everybody is going to know that I am queer, that I was bisexual back then. Everyone is going to know, everyone I speak to is going to know everything. And I did kind of go, too much the other way and would start talking about things in the supermarket. But yeah, there was just actually there was something in the supermarket. There was a woman on the checkout, and she was shouting at another one of her colleagues, and she was calling him a. I'm not going to repeat it, but it's a homophobic slur that's sadly very common in Black Caribbean, especially Black Jamaican parlance. And I went, hey, don't call him that. And she said, oh, it's okay, he's gay. And I went, I'm gay too. I didn't say I'm bisexual, but I just said, I think I might have said, I'm queer too. And she looked really taken aback. And I was just so angry. And I like found someone who was in charge, I think like the store manager or the supervisor. And I said, one of your checkout staff just said something really homophobic. And he went, oh God, was it Olivia? And I just thought, if you know the person who's so likely to say that, that you know their name, why is she still involved here? Why is she still employed here? Why is she shouting homophobic slurs? Even if it is a joke, it was still really hurtful. So yeah, when I say everybody knows that I'm queer, everybody knows I'm queer, even in the supermarket. Um, since then, I got more and more involved in activism. Uh, I think as a direct result of my poor treatment by in queer spaces and by queer and trans people, the racism is humongous in queer and trans spaces in the UK, and nobody white wants to admit that that exists. I've been told countless amounts of times when I bring things up, oh, I can't be racist, I'm gay. Oh, I can't be racist, my boyfriend is black. That is extremely common. One oppression, one marginalisation does not erase everything. It doesn't mean that you're incapable of being a bigot. There is lots of homophobia and transphobia in black communities in the UK. Black people experience lots and lots of different kinds of racism and systemic and institutionalized racism and bigotry every day. But black people can also be homophobic. Um, White women experience sexism, but they can also be racist. Having one thing or having a partner who's part of a minority or a marginalised identity doesn't excuse you from being a bigot. But that's something that people will constantly try and say all the time. So my friend and I mentioned to you yesterday, Neela, who passed away coming up on 4 years now. We started up Bisexuals of Colour, and we ran for 11 years, and we were, as far as I know, the only ones doing anything like that in the UK. And we created a Bisexual of Colour history report. It was a collection of surveys that we did and presenting statistics from black people, black and brown people around the world who were bisexual, and it's the only one of its kind in the world. And I remember being in my sitting on the floor in my flat, typing up the report and thinking, why hasn't a big LGBT organisation done something like this? But when you exist at an intersection where there's the racism, nobody wants to know about you. There's a there's a biphobia, no one wants to know about you. And when those two things come together, people really don't want to know about you. So it shouldn't have taken until, I think it was 2015 when we did that. And there still hasn't been hardly anything about black and brown bisexual people. Um, and it was just it was exhausting, but having this constant, multi-faceted bigotry passed my way, it was just, I either do something or I'll just crumble. And I kind of did a bit of both, really. And it's not a healthy way to be. And there is very, very little support. When I first came out in 92, my boyfriend at the time just didn't seem to understand what bisexual was. So he phoned up at that time it was a lesbian and gay switchboard, which is a huge institution for queer people in the UK. And they said, oh, there's nothing for bisexuals in England. You should go to Scotland instead. And it was just such a lot of biphobia, such a lot of racism, a lot of people just not understanding. And sadly, that was the case in bisexual spaces as well. And it's still the case now in now that I'm asexual and have been for just over a year now. Um, there may not be people shouting swear words at me or anything, but there's just erasure. It's not even like a lack of visibility because I don't really think that exists. It's people taking the time to make sure that black and brown voices are not heard. Or if we say something, we're not quoted. Or if we do something, other people will take up um, they'll just appropriate it. So it's something that's really fired me up over the last, God, 32 years, 33 years. But it's knackering. It's absolutely knackering. It's exhausting. Sorry.
No.
Stop using East End slang. I'm knackered. So yes, there's a fire there, but it's so sad because you see other people getting support. Um, there are organisations um, in the UK, a couple. One, I don't mind saying their name, the NAS
Mm,
Project,
mm.
London. They say they help black and brown, queer and trans people as long as they're lesbian and gay.
Oh, oh.
If they're bisexual, no, sorry, we can't help you. If you're asexual, no, nothing. There's just very, very narrow. And I experienced, when I was bisexual, I experienced biphobia all over the place. And because I'm black, people were not shy about saying really horrible things to my face. But in black and brown in black spaces where there were lesbian and gay, the biphobia there was just off the charts. It was so strong and so wounding. And I remember you asking me yesterday about what has hurt you and what has helped you. And I think the lack of community in black queer spaces, black lesbian and gay spaces, that has been something that has always stayed with me. Um, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I remember hearing people saying horrible things about gay people all the time. But one thing I remember them saying was that gay people call themselves family. And so I sort of hung on to that and thinking, okay, I've run away from the family of origin and maybe I can find a new family with lesbian and gay people. No, didn't happen at all. Um, Black lesbian and gay people wouldn't touch me with a barge pole.
Ah.
It was also just on the tail end. Actually, no, it was at the time where the AIDS epidemic was still very much around,
Mm,
but maybe not as huge as it was in the late 80s. So, and bisexual people were often seen as we were the ones transmitting it from the wicked gay people to the innocent and pure straight people. We were the conduit. And someone who's, oh gosh, uh, his name is Marcus. He runs a group called Bi Index. It's just very plain English bisexual site. And he showed me a leaflet that he got once when I think he was in America. And it said, like, do you want to avoid AIDS? Don't have sex with black people or bisexuals.
mm.
And I just laughed when I saw it. And he was like, this is terrible. And yes, it was absolutely terrible. But it was like what people were saying. And I think it was just a couple years ago was the last time a black gay man told me that I'm responsible for spreading AIDS. just yeah, it was bisexual people's fault because
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was just absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
So bigotry being at the intersections of so many marginalizations and oppressions, I'm just getting it from so many different angles. I get ageism, I get queer phobia and transphobia, I get fat phobia. Um, don't get me started on fat people in queer spaces. It's just shocking. Um, being a black person that's not a African American means that I'm just completely erased. And I don't want to take anything away from African American queer people at all. But when people think of black people, it's going to be African American people. So it's like, why, there's no black people in England, is there? Where
Mm.
there's been black people in the UK for centuries, just like there's been huge amounts of South Asian people and East Asian people in the UK. But when you get your history and knowledge from Hollywood or a BBC production of Pride and Prejudice, everyone's white. That's it. Everyone's straight, and we don't exist.
Mm.
So nowadays, like I said, I've been asexual for over a year now, and I thank God for that. Seriously, any sexual orientation or sexual behavior or lack of it, where it's coming from a genuine place from me, that I'm not coerced into it or forced into it, it's a blessing. It's absolute blessing. And after 22 years of physical and sexual abuse with the people I grew up with, I just call them the F word instead of family. Anything that's a choice, a consensual choice, a positive thing from me, that's wonderful. And I'm so thankful for that. And it's just, yeah, I didn't think I was going to be able to speak much today, but I can just feel like, um, yeah, right now, I'm sort of seeing in asexual spaces, it's like they've just woken up to racism, that racism can exist, really. And I'm thinking, oh God, I had all of this with bisexual people in the 90s. I'm going to have to face this with asexual people. And again, no asexual person has shouted at me or, used derogatory language at me. But there is a lot of assumptions of like, I went to a asexual meetup at the London LGBTQ centre, and a white asexual woman said she just just made a big assumption about me, and when I said actually that's not right, she went, oh well no, I didn't actually mean it like that. What I meant was I saw it in a study, blah 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 blah, and all this academic speak coming out instead of just saying oh my mistake, sorry, and then moving on. So it's asexual spaces in the UK. The little that I've seen in the year, very very white, incredibly middle class, and very very young as well. And there was a over 50, no, it was an over 40s meetup. Take that back. It was an over 30s meetup, just before Christmas, and there was about 5 people there, and different ages and different ethnicities and races. It shouldn't be a big deal, but it is because of the society that we live in, where white people are prioritized, where white supremacy is propped up so much that people don't even see that as something big. That's how it always has been. Young people are prioritized, and there are some times where plenty of times where young people are mistreated, they're not taken seriously. You're too young to know your own mind. There are particular risks, but when you go into queer and trans spaces, um, in London, which has got a huge amount of different scenes and communities, you are not going to see someone over 40. You'd be lucky if you see someone over 30. I remember going to an event in Bristol, actually, and the guy who said it, he's an absolute sweetheart. And I don't think he meant it badly. At the time, I think I was 42, maybe 43. And he went, let me introduce Jacq, an elder in the queer communities. And I just thought, hang on, I'm 40, or 42. But for queer and trans people, that's old, because all you ever see, if you pick up a magazine, a queer or trans magazine or blog post or video, they're going to be young. They're going to be young. And it's like, why are you still here? Why are you old? Why have you got different experiences to us? Why don't you understand the memes about SpongeBob SquarePants being asexual? What is wrong with you? That's a lot of the things that I get. And on the other side, when I go outside of queer and trans spaces and communities, there's just this huge assumption that if you're black, you're straight. The doctor
Mm.
that I had, the second to last doctor that I had, I went there once, and I just, like, I've had mental health issues my whole life. Growing up in this country is going to do it with the constant racism, and also growing up with violence and abuse is going to, like, mess with you. Anyway, so I was talking to my doctor, a woman, and she said, you can talk to me about anything. If you ever feel really bad, the depression gets to you, you can come in and speak to me. Don't need an appointment, just talk to me about anything. And I naively thought she actually meant that. It was a white woman, middle class white woman. And so I started talking about how racism and queerphobia just affects me so much and just grinds you down. It's just such a constant in my life. And she just looked really shocked, and I thought, oh crap. She just assumed I was straight. And she sort of, we're on our own in her office, door is shut, and she sort of looks around and goes, I take it from what you've just said, are you a homosexual? And I just thought, oh my God. I said, oh, something like that. And I just thought, okay. So this person who says that they're there for me, that they can support me, is using language that no one else has used since 1959. Are you a homosexual? It's sort of something that you'd see maybe on a poster. Are you a homosexual? Then come and get cured here. That sort of language. And the older I am, the worse it gets, actually, because there is very little in the UK that's specifically for older people, for people over 55 or in their 50s and upwards. When it comes to care and support, both physical and mental and developmental, it's just assumed that your family will do it, really. Any kind of care. Like when I had an operation a few years ago, they just said, okay, so when is your family going to come and take you home? And I said, I haven't got one. I'm single. Uh, and it was just this blank look on faces of like, but you're black. You must have a family. All black people have families. Family is everything. And that's from medical people. But the thing is that that's what I get a lot from straight black and brown people as well. People don't want to know my name. They want to know where I come from. They want to know about my family. I remember once I actually said, oh yeah, my dad's Bob Marley. Just to get them to leave me alone. I mean, white people want to know where you're from, but with black people, black and brown people, it's a different way. And usually, they'll leave it at, you say something, oh, North London, and they'll just leave it at that. It's with white people where it gets really weaponized. I went to the London bisexual group, which it has improved over the years, but I haven't gone back there since the pandemic because I'm really trying to limit, going out too much. But I went to one of their meetups once and I was about to sit down and my bottom hadn't even touched the chair properly. But this white man just strode up to me and said, "So where are you from then?" And it just were. And like I literally almost stumbled and sort of fell off the chair because I hadn't sat down properly. And I just said, that's such a rude thing. And again, you get all the excuses of, I'm not racist. I'm just interested. When the very first thing you say to someone, your first impression, it really does count. And when a white person will go up to a black and brown person and say, where are you from? No, really, where are you from? No, where are your family from? I mean, where are you? Um, I have tried to talk back to it a couple times, but sometimes it's just exhausting. And you can see the anger building in their faces because you're not saying the right words to them. You're not giving them the answer that they know. And yeah, that happens in straight spaces and in queer spaces as well. Sometimes it's actually worse in queer spaces because it's you're black and you're here. Are you sure you're in the right place? I used to get asked that a lot from bouncers or door staff. Are you sure you're in the right place, love? As well as being stopped and searched before going into a queer pub. Meanwhile, white people are just coming to and fro. But once that happened, I got stopped and searched twice for the same venue. Once going in and once trying to go upstairs to where the event was happening. But, if you ask white, queer, and trans people, is there racism in our community? Oh, no, 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 no. We can't be racist. We're queer, we're trans. I started going to support groups run by Opening Doors, which was specifically set up for queer and trans people who were over 50. And the racism that I experienced there um, was so bad that I just gave up. And there was one group called Melanin Vibes, which was for black and brown people, and that was the biphobia. That was the place where a guy told me that I was responsible for AIDS. It was in that space, but the so I just stopped going to that. I'd complain, I'd write about it, I'd have face-to-face meetings, nothing would change. And there were two other groups, one for bi people and one for trans and non-binary people. And at both of them, the racism was just unchecked. The very last time I was at one of their groups, it was for a trans group, over 50 trans and non-binary group. And the facilitator was sitting like directly next to me on my right hand side, and there was a woman sitting on my left hand side, and we were talking about isolation and loneliness, which is been a big issue for me most of my life. But when you're older, it takes on a new kind of meaning. And the white woman sitting on my left hand side said, "Yeah, I feel really lonely because everyone in my street, they're either black or Muslim." And I just went, "What the hell?" And I looked at the facilitator who was sitting directly next to me and said, "Are you going to do anything about that? Are you going to say anything?" And he said, "Oh, let's change the subject." And I just thought, no, don't change the subject. Fix this, talk to the person, make it stop. And no, they would rather be diplomatic about it than address the racism that they can hear right in front of their faces. So, yeah, I literally ran out. And where the centre was, there's the LGBTQ centre. It's on the south bank of the Thames. It's actually next door to Shakespeare's
Mm,
Globe
I've,
Theatre. So there's always tons of people around. And there's like Blackfriars Bridge that leads to the nearest tube station. I ran across that bridge to get away. It felt like I was getting away from some kind of evil curse.
mm,
I ran across that bridge and, like, I am not fast. I am not a runner, but I just thought I need to escape from this awfulness. And like I said, the the racism is so huge that I think a lot of older people will face isolation once they stop working, or or children have grown up if they've got kids, and they'll find themselves alone. But where do I go to socialize or to meet new people? If I go to things that are for black people, social events for black people, it's going to be black straight people, and they're not going to know what to do with me, or they'll be feel threatened or just treat me badly. If I go to queer spaces to try and socialize, it's for white queer people or young white queer people, and they don't know what to do with me, and they'll feel threatened. And you see, it just replicates, and it's a terrible thing, because I just feel like, so what am I supposed to do? And luckily, I've got a few friends. I've got friends around the UK and Europe, but I've got a few friends in London, and they have really come through. Um, they're one's, I think one is straight. Oh my God, do I know a straight person? Then most of them are queer and trans, and they are just, they get it. Even if they're not black, they get it. They believe me when I talk about things. It's not like the usual sort of thing I get from most white queer people of, denying that racism exists, or denying that it happens as often as it does. So, yeah, so really thank God for these friends that I have. And some of them, I've only kind of interacted with online, but yeah, they get it, they understand. And if they don't understand, they'll educate themselves. They won't say, "So, okay, Jacq, tell me about all this, racial trauma that you go through every single day. Explain it to me. I want to." They don't do that. They know their own shortcomings, and they know that they're not perfect. None of us are. But, that they make mistakes and they mess up just like I do, just like everyone does. But they don't get defensive about it or precious about it. That they're human, that we are human. And that's something I think that has helped a lot. And yeah, I've been talking for 40 minutes. Oh my God. You've awoken a creature, a creature of queer age.
am I interrupting you? Sorry.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
I am so touched and very grateful. And as I said, I really mean from the heart that I feel also honored that you have just opened up. Okay. And as I said, you know, uh, I'm actually at a loss for words. I'll try not to cry. Uh,
Oh, sorry.
no. This is going to be, in a way, a different kind of not just healing, but just an expression of emotion. Uh, I can relate to much of what you said, sometimes in a different way. Though I was in London and I never returned, though I could have, a much younger me, I was 27, and I was barely like, I hadn't yet, what do I call it? Uh, Self accepted, and I was not disclosing. I shared a bit about the trauma that I had over there, racism and sexism, from what you can't get better, more racist than a racist het white ableist male, right?
Mm.
Right. So, and that was that, and literally at me, coming at me regularly in the workplace. So that's even worse. Okay, but anyway, this is not about me. So all I'm saying is that, when I saw your video, and even before that, and I responded, and the way you have, I think, felt convinced to share. It is just, uh, I tell you, very, very important. I hope I'm not making you relive any of your traumas. Sorry for doing that intentionally. But also, you have, taken us back, us meaning, of course, the people who are now join live now, but who will keep, you know, many times these videos get watched few weeks later, even sometimes months later, and sometimes even there are automatically closed captions and everything. So usually this is a fair inclusive space, but I think, if it's okay with you, as I said, it's about 45 minutes. You also know that, but if you can continue for a bit more, or you want to end now, it's completely your choice, because this is your life, okay? But also, in the larger, much as we have our individual lives, certain things also are a reflection of where society is. And this is not about us passing judgments or anything, but just to show that, kind of. And in, I tell you, Jack, I think I cannot articulate today or ever any time that every time I've listened to you, okay, it's about only 3, 4 times. It's like so much, and yet, as I said, you know, um, I see so much strength with the vulnerabilities. Yeah, so much resilience, so much determination. I think you have lots to offer that way. You're, I, I keep reiterating this. You are so, not just inspiring, important, but the fact that we are listening to you, hearing, watching, and all that. Itself,
The sound's gone a bit
oh, sorry,
funny.
sorry. The fact that we are, real, listening to you, hearing you, watching you now or later, I think uh, we should feel so fortunate, okay, um, while also trying to relate to your pain, okay. Yeah, because in India, like somebody like me, amidst all my other challenges and everything, I still sort of come from a privileged background, okay? But if the same me, even that time when I was not out even properly to myself as a queer person, transport myself to London or any of the other large metros in the world, the so called from the developed world, I think I would have faced similar stuff things. Maybe certain things would be different, Uh, but it's also sad, it's outrageous, it's tragic that, uh, you know, what is all this advancement, development? What supposedly the first world countries in which, you and many live, what are they even, what do they even mean? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking of like LGBT Pride when they have like the Pride Month or
Yeah.
sorry, Pride marches or Pride Month,
Mm,
and I just think, what is this for?
mm,
When like Pride Month in the UK is in February, it coincided with the end of Section 28,
mm,
um, which banned schools and government places from promoting being LGBT. But when there's a Pride Month, and I just sort of think, you put up rainbow flags everywhere,
mm,
you put all these slogans, love is love, but where's the support for young people who are facing homelessness because their parents don't like that they're queer or trans and kicking them out? Where is the support for disabled people who can't physically access a lot of the support that's out there? Where's the support for elderly queer and trans people who are
mm,
petrified of going into a care home and having to go back in the closet for their own safety? Because, yeah, not in a care home, but because of health conditions, I've been in hospital quite a few times, and you have to be so careful because if they know that you're queer or trans, that homophobia, that queerphobia and transphobia in medical settings is huge, just like racism in medical settings are huge. And I can only imagine that must get amplified in things like care homes, of where you have to. So what are these pride events for when they never ever touch on that? I know that I was ignorant to a lot of things about asexual people. I knew some asexual people, but I was ignorant to a lot of it until I became asexual. So I didn't know about, in the UK, conversion therapy is mostly kind of banned, but not for asexual people, that we're not covered under the Equalities of Opportunities Act at all. Asexual people completely out of it. So where where is I think a lot of pride events, pride months and pride marches, especially the ones in London, Manchester and Brighton, which call themselves queer and trans havens, they're about sponsorship, they're about Absolute Vodka or Smirnoff sponsoring stuff, they're about things like the weapons manufacturers having a float, having it led by the British Army, yeah, who will go overseas or even in this country and terrorise black people, queer people, people who are both. That's what these events are for. It's for the local supermarket to put up a pretty rainbow flag and say, we support all of you know, our shoppers here in the supermarket, but if you work in the supermarket, you're not going to get promoted. You're going to get people like I said earlier, people shouting out pretty hurtful, homophobic slurs at you as a joke. It's like, it's a long way of saying I agree with you. What is it for? It feels like the ones the queer and trans events that really mean something, that have meant something to me in the past, have been ones where they're not queer and trans havens. Like the first time I went to Norwich Pride, Norwich is a big city in the east of England, It's pretty inland. It's not exactly known for being multicultural or progressive, but they had their Pride event, and people were there because, oh my God, they've got a Pride event in this city. This is great. Not like with London Pride, where people are passed out drunk hours before the event starts,
Mm.
where a hate group, UKIP, which is a hate group, a far right hate group in the UK, where they were allowed to march because they also had a gay group there. I used to be on the committee, the organising committee for London Pride for about 6 months, and I left because they let a hate group march, but they didn't say they were going to do it. They said, "Oh no, we'd never let that happen." They, this was 2015. On the day, the organiser of London Pride, he actually, you could see him. He was on like the BBC News. Another group out of the West wrote so that the hate group, who has a gay group, could march. And the people who's pushing out of the way was called, it was African Lesbian and Gay Migrants group. So there was like mainly older black women, and he was pushing them out of the way to let UKIP march. And I said, okay, that's it, I'm out. I'm not having anything to do with these people. When I was on the group, I was always the only black person there. I was the only person who wasn't either gay or lesbian, cis gay or lesbian person. And it just felt terrible. And they'd all go off to the cocktail bars afterwards. And it was just sickening, really. And I thought, this is just sapping my energy. And like, it may sound like a joke when I sort of said earlier about me running across Blackfriars Bridge to get away from this, but it felt like on a spiritual level that it was like a wound of like somebody pressing against my heart against, this is how things are. White supremacy is alive and kicking in queer and trans spaces. And it was, I don't often talk about ancestral things because, some of my ancestors were enslaved people, and some of my ancestors had bought and sold enslaved people. But it really felt like this: get out of here, Jacq, get out now. These people are just wounding your spirit and your soul. And that's what it feels like, sadly, in a lot of queer and trans spaces. Of they're supposed to be better than this, but they're not. But they'll just put up a rainbow flag and have everything in pubs and be accessible in so many ways and call each other, um, label people with mental health conditions as psychos and crazies and other horrible words. It's just horrible. And like, this, my YouTube channel, it's only like, I've only had it for about 2 years, I think, and there's not that many videos there. I'm always very conscious about, being on camera and all. But whenever I do a video, it's because it's been weighing on my heart. The same way that the oppression feels like it's just pressing against your heart. It may not be piercing through and killing you dead, but when you've got that pressure there and of all the hate and bigotry that's out there, that I need to do something. And so the video about aging, it was on my mind and on my heart for months before I did it. And when I finished the video, I felt like, I've done it, I've said it. It's not going around my head the whole time, that it's out there and I'm being genuine. I'm talking about, like I said, done with secrets. I will talk about, not going into any detail, but I will talk about how I'm a survivor of sexual abuse and physical abuse. I will talk about the organisations, the big charities in the UK that let down black and brown people, bisexual and ace people all the time. You know, I will not hold stuff back. It's just, but not doing it in a way to hurt people, but doing it in a way that be healing for me. You know, the prime audience for my videos is me. It's a therapeutic thing for me. And if other people watch and get something out of it, I'm really glad. But I'm doing this for me, really. So as much as I can have a fire and a rage about queer and trans rights and fighting against all the bigotry inside and outside of these spaces, there's also the pain and the hurt and the wound that is inside me from all of this. And this is how I try to counteract it. This is how I try to heal things. And yeah, and it's always good to know when people sort of say, oh, you know, yeah, I resonated with that, or I can identify with this. But yeah, it's something that's really good for me.
Thank you again for bringing this out, and it is also great that you said that talking out is therapeutic and healing. While in a way also sometimes all these things, the human life, emotions, whatever in moment or over a long time, in itself contradicts itself, internally sometimes unavoidably, right? But yet, yeah, so, especially when you can relate to somebody so much, it's also, like I said earlier, sort of healing, like it's a collective joint healing. Sometimes it happens very unplanned, and sometimes that actually is what is waiting to emerge, right? Like let go, whatever you call it. Like sometimes it's like an outburst, but it's like, oh my gosh, that's feeling so good, right?
Mm.
And but also, as I said, there is in your video, you have said, uh, and it is so unique and rare that you said that you are your audience too, because so that's right. And because I'm also here, maybe or yes, that I'm also a first responder, peer counselor. Sometimes we have to urge the person in not in a good uh, especially mentally, emotionally, say that. And very recently I said this to a person, okay, we're yeah, like
Sorry, the audio is still cutting out a bit.
sorry,
Sorry.
yeah. So all I said about the healing part, right? So all I was
Mm.
saying was that because I'm also an LGBTQIAP plus peer first responder, support provider, and emotional counselor. um, so I have sort of urged people to say, to uh, let their thoughts flow in front of them, okay, to see if that works for them, if they try. So somewhere, uh, you know sort of, for at least for some time, setting yourself apart from yourself, in a way. I know it might sound uh,
No, that sounds, yeah, that's, I live with dissociative identity disorder. So being outside of myself and having another personality come to the front, that's, yeah, sorry, just totally understand what you're talking about there. I know it's not in the same context, but yes, I get that.
yeah, yeah. apparently for some people it helps because, and as you said, much of this is never planned, right? It's sometimes inevitable, okay? And sometimes, no, they're not deliberately dissociating, or sometimes you think you want to. It's a mix, right? It's never one thing, right? Especially the thoughts and emotions when they're flowing inside and all that. And it's happened to me also. After, sometimes it's, as I said, it's a few minutes, it's probably a few hours. What is, you know, again, eventually, uh, uh, in therapy, in counseling, and all, I'm not trying to do any theories or practices or methods, but all I'm saying is that uh, we have to acquire our coping mechanisms, right? And if you are the support provider, because as a queer trans person, we also go through our things, but when you're also reaching out to persons or people have are seeking your support, sometimes we can urge them to find what works best for them. And I think what you said about, while you may be slightly shy or uncomfortable about speaking on video or public, but if that is therapeutic, yeah, I think that's important. And but the, you are offering in, again, unintentionally, so many things to people who are watching that. It's not just information, insights, history, and everything. In a way, like you said, when somebody resonates with that closely, in a way, it's also kind of a reassurance that I'm not alone in this world in this way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I just wanted to. Oh, okay. Oh, somebody who's been following you for some time. Did you read that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that.
appreciate the comments.
Yeah. That's so heartening to hear. Thank you, Chroma Curiosity, for sharing that. I think you were the first person to join this live also. So glad to have you here. And
There's
may,
Gabby.
yeah, Gabby's also here. Gabby's been, also responding. Thank you also for, yeah. Chroma Curiosity, if you don't mind, I might DM you. Similarly, people who are watching now or later can also DM us. Yeah, if you need any support or any other connections you want to make or whatever, you're welcome. And from anywhere in the world, okay? It need not be only India, because we'll do our best to see, or if you just want to say hi, share love, spread joy, that's also very welcome, because I think there's always a dearth. I mean, to me, actually, one of the ways that what gives me queer joy is just queer trans people navigating, negotiating life on a daily basis. Yeah. And surviving. I know it's tough. I know this is so much easier than done, but said than done. But that's something which I've also been doing most of my life, right? But there are some people, sadly, who, for whatever reason, give up, give in, are not able to. But that's also okay. Nobody is saying somebody is less brave or less capable, but it's tragic that happens. But also, first of all, uh, how are you feeling, Jacq? Can we continue for a bit, or do you
I
want to stop?
think I'm about done with
Okay.
just.
Okay.
It's been fantastic, and we've been able to do this for longer than I thought.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really thankful for this opportunity today. But yeah, tired.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. I completely understand. And that's why, as I said, very fortunate and very happy amidst all the pain that we shared, that you actually, came and then spent this time and all the prep that you did Yeah, extremely professional. Your videos do not show anything that that you are doing it very rare. I mean, not very often. And it is, as I told you, I don't tire of saying that they're so cute. They're so relaxing in a way, but also stirring us, right? So people, please do go and watch Jack's videos. They are not seeking audience, but obviously any of us will be happy. And yeah, any words, any few more words you want to offer or say, Jack? Yeah.
I think something that I wish for people, to, whatever your sexuality, whatever your race, to just realise that people will have a multitude of different things
Mm.
that they're going through temporarily or permanent. That very few of us are just black. We're black and yeah, X. We are gay and Y. We are trans and Z. And that's just on the basic level. I am black and I am non binary and I am fat and I am an abuse survivor and I am disabled and I am old and I am childless. So many things in just one person, but it often feels like people can't wrap their heads around, you can be one thing and several other things at the same time. So that's something I really hope that people will get better about. And that's my wish.
Okay, that's so beautiful. Very lovely words and powerful. Okay, this will stay with me. I feel so mm, honored. uh, But we will stay connected. Okay,
Yeah,
have more one-on-one or other conversations. I will get back to you.
cool.
Like we are slowly trying to build uh, queer trans, cross-border BIPOC sharing sessions we're doing with people in the US who are also queer trans and black and indigenous. So maybe hopefully when schedules meet, we can bring you specifically, Jack, into such a close group. Yeah, and I would also surely want your Twitter and X handle if you're still active on it.
No, no,
No,
Twitter.
okay, yeah, right. So yeah, thank you so much again. All the best. Take care. Much love and strength. Yeah, and healing to you. Yeah,
Thanks so much.
yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye. I will share this with you. I will share the video with you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, again for joining. Okay. Bye. All the best and take